This summed Frankie Miller up. And I said, Frankie, what are you doing in Glasgow? He said, I'm here to see Celtic and my mother. In that order. Baby, I hope it's not farewell. You can count on...
I met a few pop stars. The funny thing about them, they always seem to want to be football players. And I always wanted to be a singer.
Apart from me, he's the best white singer ever. No, he's the best.
The only thing he ever did was either sing, write songs and play his guitar. And in 1 second, it had all gone.
Frankie Miller had 9 acclaimed albums and a handful of hit singles. Even at the age of 10, his overwhelming determination to become a singer was obvious as he sang along to R&B imports from his mother's record collection. As a cocky, enigmatic teenager, he changed bands more often than girlfriends in a bid to hit the big time. Stardom eventually came to the Brickton boy, but it was all sadly taken away from him.
We'd gone to New York basically to call on Joe Walsh. The Eagles were playing in Shea Stadium. We went to the concert and it was absolutely amazing. In fact, Frankie actually said to me, because there were so many people there, I mean, Shea Stadium is so huge, he went, "This is a night you'll always remember." Don't call it low life, you fit in your life. We went back to the hotel, Joe went to bed, I went to bed. And it was a really hot night in New York. Frankie decided to stay in the sitting room writing a song that had started. And the next minute, that I remember, was waking up feeling freezing cold all down my leg and my side. And as soon as I woke up and sort of turned around to see Frankie, he sort of gasped his last breath and the bed was full of blood and he'd actually then just stopped breathing. When we got to the hospital, they thought it was an ulcer. No, it didn't occur to anybody to look to see if anything else was wrong with him. And when they finally discovered it was more than the ulcer, they had to scan him and found out he'd got a brain hemorrhage.
Love moves in its different ways.
Doctors attached a clamp to the burst vein in Frankie's head, and a life support machine barely kept him alive.
Leave you cracked, but when I'm with you, oh, baby, I'm amazed at your innocence, sweet innocence.
I can remember going into the intensive care. It was just like a big slab of meat with tubes coming out everywhere. And, although you could hold his hand and try and speak to him, there was nothing coming back. There was nothing.
They said he'd got no chance at all of making it. I could go and sit with him because this was the end.
I was absolutely flabbergasted when I heard about Frankie's disaster because I heard he was dead. And I was completely, I phoned everybody I could find and they said, "Oh no, he isn't dead, he's in an emergency place in New York and he's in dire straits, he's close to death and stuff." And I said, "Well, is there time for me to go?" And they said, "No, they're not letting anybody see him at all."
I don't know, I just willed him to live, I think. I was just so determined that he was not going to die and he wasn't going to die in America. I'm not like that either. I used to put his Walkman on so he could listen to his music. I don't know whether he could hear it, but I used to play him tapes. And Frankie remained unconscious for the next 5 months.
Far away, I'm up all through the night. I can't tell the wrong from the right. When I'm away from you, see grey day clouds and the fog and rain
The doctors in New York told Annette there was nothing more they could do. Frankie was still in a coma, but had become stable enough to be flown home to London.
As soon as we got home, I regretted it very much. If Frank had had his brain hemorrhage in England, I don't think he'd have made it at all. I think they'd have switched Frankie off. 2 doctors actually said to me that, you know, I'd be better off to go and get on with my life and put Frankie into care, basically, really, and get on with my own life, because he was not going to improve. But then Frankie proved them all wrong.
The things people were telling me sounded as if he didn't have very long to live. And then I saw him, and I knew he had ages to live. He was fine. You've either got the life force or you don't, and Frankie has it by the barrel load. His light's on.
I left my home in Brickton town, with all the buildings falling down. Went to seek my...
Well, Frankie's a second cousin to me, and he came from over in Bridgeton, and we were in the Gorbos. There was a lot of poverty, and extreme poverty, and Frankie, all of us, you know, was a kid of the streets. So he learned the hard rules of the streets, but, you know, the one thing he always had, and everyone knew he had, was a talent for singing. You know, Frankie was a very angelic little boy, but the minute somebody was looking for somebody to sing, he would kick his way right through, and it didn't matter whether you're 6 feet or 4 feet, he'd kick himself right through to get through there, to get up there and sing. And that was at a very, very early age. That was him 9, 10. And that's saying something in Glasgow.
He was the first guy I knew who ate sushi. I mean, there was no such place as a sushi restaurant in Britain at the time, and in America. But we were all sitting in the kitchen at Joe McCourtney's, and we were getting fish. Somebody was making fish, and he starts eating it raw. I said, what are you doing, Frankie? And he said, when he went for fish for his mother, he used to eat it on the way home. He used to nibble the fish in the packet, and he got to like the taste. And now he liked raw fish, and everybody thought he was a loony. But now the whole world's eating it. I think it's perfectly normal. Oh, Frankie used to gobble away raw fish. That's the kind of guy he is.
In the summer of '65, Frankie left school to become an apprentice electrician, but by winter he was chasing the musical dream, with bands such as the Deljacks, the Stoics and Jude. His debut album, Once in a Blue Moon, was released in 1972, and although well received, record sales were poor. Undeterred, Frankie went on the road in Europe and the United States, where he soon built up a cult following.
He was convinced that you couldn't get mince and potatoes in America, and he's quite right, isn't it? Never heard of it. So he would take tins of mince and potatoes, and he would make it in his room. He had an electric frying pan. You don't see them very much now. It's kind of deep thing with the controls on the handle, and he would make mince and potatoes, and here in Sunset Marquee.
How can a boy be expected to reason?
He's got a swagger. He's got a swagger he could dry a washing at. When he walks down the street, Willie Conley and I were staying in Los Angeles, and we went, Frankie phoned up. So I was going to meet him just off Sunset Strip at a place called Barnley's Beanery.
He said, there's Frankie. And he was walking along the street
with a jacket. And it wasn't an Evening Times, it might have been a Los Angeles Times, but he had a paper in the pocket, and I just thought, oh, that'll do.
It's a walk that would be called gallus in Glasgow, you know, like doing the shoulder stuff. And he was completely on his own. Frankie, you knew Frankie was a somebody.
He's just missing a bottle of Iron Brew, that's all.
Lennox trying to get it in. No! It's a goal for Celtic, yes! Johnston has scored.
Frankie really is steeped in the Celtic. One time he says to me that he was going to the States on a tour, and he says, what about I love a jersey, Celtic strip, the hoops, get me the hoops, you know that way you used to say it. I says, I no bother. So I met up with him and I gave him it. Just after a game, I think it was a Rangers game that I'd played. See, when he knew who it was, you're joking, was it again? oh, brilliant. He says, I'll never have this off my back. And he was true to his word. All over the United States, he wore this. And he'd seen the crowds he was playing to then in some of these stadiums. It was absolutely amazing. And there was Frankie with a Celtic strip on.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for a walk at 5'4", and rings on a finger, bells on a toe, just a sweet fashion lady stepping down a May. It's gonna take me for granted in the heat of the night. Come on, baby, don't run away. Look at my face, be it night or day. I ain't got no money, but I sure got a whole lot of love.
He still makes me laugh. Even though he can't talk, he makes me laugh. And he always sees the funny side of things, even now. I mean, taking Frankie to physio, he disrupts the entire gymnasium. I think that is amazing. And he is. I do love him very much. Frankie was in hospital for 20 months. When he actually came home, yeah, life was very hard. I mean, they sent him home, said he was never going to walk. Frankie didn't know what anything was, couldn't clean his teeth. Had to relearn every single thing. I can honestly say, yeah, the first 6 months were the hardest. Lifting Frankie and having to do everything for him. But over the last 3 years, things have improved. I mean, tremendously improved. You know, every day he comes out with a new word. I mean, he's back writing music again. He's doing everything they said he wasn't going to do. So, everyday life gets better.
And darling, there I read again, right from the...
He is one of the great voices and songwriters of our time. Often they have this expression, it's the singer, not the song. And sometimes you'll hear a song and it'll just go past you, you won't notice it. But if a certain person with the right voice sings it, then you think, wow, what a great song. And often that same person can sing all sorts of different songs that you never knew you liked, but suddenly you like them because of the way they sing it. And Ray Charles has that, and also Frankie Miller has that, because I've heard him do songs like Love Letters, which is a song that I never even knew I liked. When I heard him sing it, I thought, hey, that's great.
This is an old Marvin Gaye tune called Stubborn Kind of Fella.
The first time I ever seen Frankie sing, he was singing in a pub down in Richmond. I crept out there to see him, and I walked in. There wasn't many people there, but he was singing an Otis Redding song, These Arms Are Mine. And I'll tell you what, he's the only white guy that's ever brought a tear to my eye. He was that good.
I'm gonna love you every way. I'm gonna love you every way. When all the guys have haunted, waited just a moment.
Alan Toussaint, the legendary New Orleans producer, was chosen to work on Frankie's next album, the critically acclaimed High Life. In 1975, Frankie was living part-time in San Francisco, working on the album that was to establish him as one of the great singer-songwriters of the decade.
And I saw myself standing on the rock.
And I found myself standing on the rock. It's supposed to be about Alcatraz, but it says a great deal more about Frankie. It's such a Glasgow attitude to go to Alcatraz and say, I would have been here, but for a set of circumstances.
He dedicated it to me, you know, which was kind of, I felt really privileged and quite honoured by that, you know. And then when we did The Sense of Freedom, you know, he did the score for A Sense of Freedom, the movie, and it was just magic. You know, he did a song called A Sense of Freedom, which for me, you know, it's one thing if, say, Rod Stewart does it, it's another if your cousin does it, you know, and you think, wow, and not only that, but you actually love it.
When we were doing A Sense of Freedom, him and Rory Gallagher asked him to do the music. Me, Jeremy Isaacs turned up, and he said to Frankie, have you got the score? And Frankie says, what? He said, have you got the score? Aye, 2-0 to Celtic. And Jeremy said, no, I mean the score. The music score. Frankie says, I can't write music. A big Rory Gallagher was sitting in the background, and he said, it's just as well I can't read it.
Your name as you're dragged through the mud, but they can't take your sense of freedom.
I coped very badly with the transformation of Frankie. Not because it was too much bother or anything, but it saddened me greatly. And I started to, I thought, well, I was going to go and see him, but I don't think I'll bother, kind of behaviour. But then I got over that. So most of his friends behave as if there's nothing wrong with Frankie.
You got the last bloody word in there. Stone me, look at that picture.
He's a bit limited, but there's absolutely bugger all wrong with him. You know, as a guy, you can still talk away. You have to do all the conversation. It's a kind of one-sided affair. But there you go. Them's the rules of the game. You just have to get on with that.
So what you've been doing today, writing a song?
Aye.
Playing guitar?
Aye.
I can remember walking into his room one day and the speech therapist was holding up musical notes to him and Frankie's looking at them totally blankly. And she's writing all this rubbish down and saying, oh, he can't read music. I said, well, he couldn't read music before. Why would he be able to read it now?
Darling, you're so far behind me. Tomorrow's gonna find me.
Although Frankie's own chart success was limited, he was a prolific and talented songwriter. Stars like Ray Charles, Roy Orbison, Bob Seger, and even the Everly Brothers have recorded his songs.
I'm gonna ride, darling. You know I feel the cold night.
I remember going to see him in Glasgow. He had an enormous hit, Darling, but it wasn't one of his songs, you know. So, but he said it was the last song he did, and he did half of it. And everyone went, we want Darling. Ah, shut up. Darling, Schmarlin. He was really peed off that his biggest hit wasn't one of his own songs.
Darling of mine.
One of my favourite songs is a song that he wrote for Ray Charles, because he's written, you know, for Rod Stewart and people, all these big people have done his songs, but there's a song that he did called I Can't Change It. I think that would be one of my favourite songs that Ray Charles ever done.
But I can't change it. I can't change it. No, but I'm trying to do it right.
He was also a great songwriter, you know, unrecognised songwriter in my opinion. You're the Star was on a tape that his missus sent to me, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and that was the one that was that stood out. I don't think I did it justice. I still think the demo that he did was better than the version I did.
He made another song which I thought he made for me and him. It was Drunken Nights. And the words of it are absolutely tremendous. What do you call it? Went down to the preacher. I got on my knees. I said, preacher, I'd like to right all the wrong. He just shook his head. He looked sorry when he said, you've been on the booze far too long. And that just, I think, typified us a wee bit at that time. No, now, thankfully, but then I said, you wrote that for us too, didn't you?
In the Peter McDougall drama, Just a Boy's Game, Frankie played the starring role of hard man Jake McQuillan. Although he had no intention of becoming an actor, the critics loved his performance, and the offers flooded in.
I just saw this guy's face and I just thought, I want this guy. I know he'd never acted before. I went backstage and I met him and all the rest of it and said, you could do a turn for me. We could be in this thing.
That's my bud. Serves you right.
What he is a movie actor. He's the equivalent of a kind of a Harvey Keitel as opposed to a Scottish or British television actor. He did it all with his face.
Into the office.
So there's lots of times where you just thought, I can cut lines here because he'll put it over for me. Just simply be a look. Like when he gets that young boy in the toilet and he's got him up against the wall, I knew Frankie could handle that.
You told McCafferty I'm here.
Alex Harvey, went to Frankie and said, listen, a guy owes me money. He said, would you come with me? Well, I'm going to ask him for the money. He says, but I want you to come with me and stand behind me and do the expression that you did in that play. He said, when you were standing behind the guy. And they did it. They went and did a scene from the play together to get Alex's money. Well, that's how good Frankie was in Just a Voice Game.
What's the song?
Oh, Dago.
I Can't Change It.
Dago.
Graham Lyle from Gallagher and Lyle came into the hospital to visit Frankie, and there was a guitar in the room. Graham put it in Frankie's hands and he's gone, play C, and Frankie went C immediately. And that, I think, actually was the major turning point, because everybody said Frankie did not understand what we were talking about. He had no comprehension at all, and that actually did prove them wrong, because every chord Graham asked him to play, he played.
Frankie's recovery owes a tremendous amount to the work of the Drake Music Project, a charity that runs workshops for disabled musicians.
He'll play the chords, but his other hand's not so good, so I'll strum, and Frankie'll hum whatever sort of a tune he can over the top of that. So we were able to do a backing and a melody in this backing track, and Will Jennings wrote the words, which are all about Frankie's story. He called it Sun Comes Up, Sun Goes Down, and it's all about sort of taking it day by day and all, and sent it back. So for all intents and purposes, Frankie's really back writing music again.
Like the way the wheels keep turning and rolling, we'll leave it all behind. You've changed, but I don't mind.
The critics say that Frankie Miller could have achieved far more. He was stubborn and lazy when it came to touring, and would laugh in the face of managers who laid out a career plan. But Frankie had no regrets. The aggression or arrogance which helped establish him may have kept the Brigton boy out of the pop pantheon, but he was always his own man.
Never lost the accent. He didn't lose the roots where he came from, because that was, I think, it shone through all the time that I was with him, and any time that I met him with different people. I mean, I'm talking about high rollers, big money people as well. They were one Frankie, but maybe Frankie necessarily didn't want to know them. And I've seen places when we've been and he's walked away from them and me and him have went and done the business and all. Get bevied.
There's an air of contentment that he had. Frankie has always had a good life, lived very well, and all the time he was in Alabama and various other places. I mean, what more can you want?
I don't know if you can.
In the early 90s, Frankie was living in London, reaping the rewards of his songwriting career, and his recording of the single Caledonia was a massive success. His new relationship with Annette proved to be the turning point in his hard-drinking, fast-living lifestyle.
Checking it's in tune for you, Frankie.
Thanks.
I think it's Frankie's sheer determination. Probably it's because he's a Glaswegian. I don't know. He very rarely has black moments. I think what has happened to Frankie has changed his entire outlook on life anyway.
Annette has done the most staggering job on him, from changing his nappies to teaching him to walk, and taking him to these guitar lessons, getting the music therapy. She's like a saint. But Frankie, as I say, glows. When he was successful, he was a grumpy little bugger, you know. Staggering around, yeah, I'm the best, and blah, blah, blah. And he was renowned for being tight-fisted. You couldn't get Frankie to buy you a drink, you know. But now, he just exudes goodness.
There are times, you know, obviously that I do get down, yeah, I do. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you always bounce back. And like I said, Frankie gets better every day. And who knows how far he'll go.
I have moved and I've kept on moving. Proved the points that I needed proving. Lost the friends that I needed losing. Found others on the way.
The Drake Music Project held a charity concert in Edinburgh. Jules Holland introduced the stars, who turned up to pay tribute to Frankie and to sing his new song.
I'm really pleased to see that Frankie's able to get back and really start working, because that's what people like best, is to be working. So with Frankie, I've written a song which we're going to perform for the first time tonight, and Paul Carrick and Bonnie Tyler are going to sing it.
Thank you. The sun comes up, I'm meeting another day. I don't count all I lost on the way. Sometimes life costs more than you want to pay. Sun comes up, sun goes down. Singers blind, singing out on the
I have never seen Frankie so happy in my life. Isn't that odd? If I'd been asked before what this would do to Frankie, I would say it would kill him. I couldn't have been further from the truth.
Mr. Frankie Miller.
It's just a miracle. Although I was full of admiration for his success as a singer, I think the things that he's achieved now in terms of his own body and mental state, he's just become a hero to me.
I did ask Frankie, are you glad you're still alive? And of course he went, aye. Very much so.
Three, two, da, da, da. I da 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 da. Da 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 da. I da 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 da. I da 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 da. Da 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 da.